Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Combs, 2 for Tuesday. Welcome to Tuesday Facebook Live. Good to be here with you. Facebook Live, More Heart Than Talent Mindset. Where did it all begin? It began in 1999 at 208 West North Street, right over there, about 6 blocks from this house where I used to live. And I started off with a 5 o'clock Eastern live conference call. And it was, back then it was called the Golden Mastermind Live Conference Call. Leo, good to see you. David, good to see you. And it started off with it was actually a women's workshop that I started hosting. Then relatively quickly, I moved it to More Heart Than Talent and started a live conference call at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time that had hundreds of people on it at its peak, oftentimes anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people. And back in the day, I was interviewing Jim Rohn, Mark Victor Hansen, Dr. Joe Dispenza. This was pre-podcast, pre-internet, and it was a live conference call. 800, let's see, I remember the number. I got to remember the name of the service, but for years, I hosted the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call, and I remember back in the day, there would be multiple companies that would bring their teams and be part of their team culture, and we would have routinely 500 people in that conference call. Then I would record it, and I believe some of those recordings are still available on my website, goldenmastermind.com, and I will ask Henry, but I believe there's a couple of Jim Rohn interviews from back in the day. So last week, I used this affirmation card. My ship comes in over calm sea, poison, non-resistance are power. And I attracted a top-tier former network marketer who is a multimillionaire who rehired me and then exposed me to his new database. So, and I know that some of that was a direct reflection of this. I also went outside on a Sunday 2 weeks ago. I took my shoes and socks off. I stood in the grass with my Bible. I prayed to God, and I got grounded in the grass. It was very therapeutic. And Leslie has joined us from South Korea this afternoon. I see Heather. It's actually in the morning. Good to see you, Leslie. Kevin Clinton Paulson, my longtime friend and client, Kevin Woods. Heather Vodgen, top tier fitness professional. Always good to have Heather here with me on Facebook Live. Heather was my client for 3 years. David Hammer has been following me for multiple years. Scott Lucas. And who else do we have here? Amy Gilbert. I was Amy's coach for multiple years back in the day in 2015-16. And her husband was a man in blue, retired with 25 plus years from NYPD. So Amy, always an honor to have you. Nicole, exceptional stay-at-home mom. Good to see you. Nicole has been a woman in blue also, being a law enforcement officer in Los Angeles, California. Nicole is a mother of 3. Let's give Nicole a hand for the courage it took. So I want to show this one more time for you. This is a great affirmation. I'll hold it up here for a moment. If you want to take a screenshot of it, my ship comes in over a calm sea, poison, non-resistance are power. And that comes from the law of non-resistance and perfect self-expression. So this is from the book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. So that is my affirmation for the day for you. And then the topic for today's Facebook Live is trusting your higher self. So in context, higher self in my context, and then content. So the context of higher self means consciousness. Consciousness is the elevated energy where you're able to elevate yourself in consciousness, free of anxiety, fear, and doubt. Anxiety, fear, and doubt are direct reflections of emotions that we continue to hold on to. The emotion of anger, hate, resentment. And then there's the other components of the anger family, disappointment, frustration. And then there's rage. So there's the 6 components of anger. So it's anger, hate, resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelm feelings, which by far is the emotion that affects most of the planet, especially in the last 4 years. From March 2020 to today, our world has changed. What used to be normal is now inverted, up is down, down is up. And so for those of you who understand what inverted means, it has taken on a whole different context. And those of you who understand what is going on behind the veil, it has been head-swiveling moments. I mean, it has been challenging. However, within today's world, there is still plenty of commerce, finance, people looking for your products, services, goods, benefits, and features. There are plenty of committed people looking for ways to improve the quality of their health, their wealth, their spirit, their emotional sense, their Christianity, multitude of situations that you can be a leader and a leader grower. There are people who are looking for quality water. There are people who, my client Ted Hannock is a hydration specialist, and some of you are as well. There are people who are looking for your products, your benefits, your features, and your services, and it's going to be your responsibility to take yourself out of the way, that lower self that's not good enough, and step into your power. Some of you have been to conventions and rallies recently where you're breaking through, you're starting to rank advance, you're creating new money, you're creating new leadership, you're attracting a whole different level of prosperity to your reality, and that will continue to be enhanced by how skilled you are at letting go of your stories, letting go of your insecurities, letting go of the terms like selfish, and letting go of it's selfish of me to succeed or break through. It's selfish of me to think of myself first. Denise, so good to see you. Denise was my client in the St. Louis area. I believe Farmington, is that right, Denise? Farmington, Missouri. Good to see you. Always great to see you. Denise attended several of my events back in the day in St. Louis, one of my hometowns. I'm originally from right below Omaha, Kansas City, and I spent much of my childhood in St. Louis, in Kansas City, and Omaha. So I'm a Midwestern boy by birth, red, white, and blue, cowboy up, pony up, here we go. Incidentally, for those of you who were not following me last week, I have a client, David Gibson. If you want to look him up on Facebook, David Gibson. He's a world-renowned music writer. He co-wrote the song Ships That Don't Come In by the late Joe Diffie, and I highly recommend that song. That song is about rock bottom and about two men that beat in a shot and beer joint, and they connect about the ships that don't come in their life. It is a very, very deep song, and if you have any level of patriotism or you've been through your own rock bottoms, you will definitely drop a tear if you listen to the song Ships That Don't Come In. And Dave oftentimes is on the Facebook Live, so I'll have him shout out to you at some point, but feel free to look him up. So in trusting your higher self, so trust it's not an emotion, but it is a skill. You become skilled first at trusting self so you can trust others. Now, the challenge with trust is you've been violated, if you've been traumatized, if you've grown up if you're an adult child of narcissists, adult child of addicts, alcoholics, well, trust can take on a whole different meaning. If you can't trust your family to not violate you, who can you trust? If you can't trust the babysitter, your uncle, your grandfather, any multitude of situations, it absolutely can create long-term trust issues. And then if you can't trust others, now you can't trust your ability, your intuition. You can't trust your feelings. Then you can't trust people. Then this takes you out of business. It takes you out of flow. It takes you out of the ability to build free enterprise businesses from the comfort of your home. Those of you on today's Facebook Live, most of you own a business from the comfort of your home, or you own a traditional business, or you own a gym, or you own a combination, or you're an insurance agent, or whatever, you're a 1099 sales professional, whatever the situation is. Oh, Kristen Osberg. Kristen, good to see you. Kristen knows this about me. Kristen knows I'm from the Omaha, Nebraska area. Kristen is a Nebraska girl. Kristen was my coaching client many years ago, God, Kristen, let me even think about this, 2006, 2007. Kristen was my client over 17 years ago. Good to see you, Kristen. Always an honor to have you on my Facebook Live. Thank you, David. David Hammer, who has been a loyal follower of mine for many years from New Jersey and New York, is an insurance agent and financial planner. David, give me a fist five, my brother. And I believe, David, are you maize and blue or University of Michigan grad? So if that is the case, good to see you. Thank you, Kristen. Christian said she loved my coaching. Thank you. So if trust is a situation that it's an energy. You're able to trust yourself, trust God, trust the universe, trust others, and you do that by becoming skilled in people skills, in hearing what people mean, being able to go through the experience of having challenges, trusting people, and letting go of those challenges and becoming better and better at learning how to trust your inner wisdom, how to trust self, how to trust God, how to surrender, how to be able, and surrender in context of consciousness means that you're not weak. It means you're letting go of your will. It's letting go of being a heartaholic. It's letting go of not trusting other people or trusting yourself and locking yourself in and locking yourself out as you learn to trust your feelings and trust yourself. And that means you learn to get out of your analytical egoic mind. You're accessing higher consciousness. And so, yes, trust is the first step, Aretha. That is very good. Because if you don't trust, then you'll be in doubt. And doubt is a safe place to procrastinate. It's a safe place to avoid. It's a safe place to not fail. And it's a safe place to avoid the responsibility of success. And unfortunately, that's where a large percent of the population spends their time, is hanging out in doubt. So here was the promotion for the Facebook Live that went out on email. And then the 7 points of that are right here. So trust is number 1, and then doubt right there is number 2. So anxiety, fear, and doubt. It's a family of energy that a large percent of the world lives in. Anxiety is the emotions. Fear is the future that hasn't happened. Doubt is a safe place to keep your foot on the dock and your foot on the boat. It keeps you stuck right here. That's what doubt does. Doubt it's a combination of knowing and not knowing. Doubt is the duality. Doubt is black and white. It's right and wrong. It's good and bad. It's force and counterforce. In power, which is what trusting yourself would be, because in power you access humility. And in humility you're able to forgive. You're able to trust. You're able to let go. And in true humility, no one can reject you because you become not rejectable. You see the error of others' ways as their own character defects without personalizing it and making people wrong. When you move into humility in your higher self, you're able to let people go easily. And when you encounter narcissistic personalities, it's going to be your responsibility to learn how to ignore them, because they want your energy. They want conflict with you. They want you to validate, justify, and explain yourself. They want to gaslight you, make you wrong, think you're crazy, think it's your fault. It's going to be your responsibility to trust yourself and not get entangled in these trauma bonds, panic patterns, anxiety, fear, and doubt of these type of personalities, because these type of personalities want to destroy you. And it's going to be your responsibility to trust yourself and understand this and be able to easily and effortlessly let people go and trust yourself in establishing clear boundaries and realize that you're not responsible for other people's feelings. And as you learn to let that go, you're elevating your consciousness, because now you're not in people-pleasing tendencies. You're not in codependency. You don't feel that you have to do more for people, and you learn to understand that sometimes doing less is doing more. And it's the same principle when you build a team. If you have to build a team and you have to do everything for them, then you're not creating independency, you're creating codependency, and that's an evolution that I myself learned. I thought if I just did more for my team, they would do more, they would exceed. If I just bought them leads, or I closed all their sales, or if I did the events for them I learned relatively quickly that if I wanted to have an independent team of like-minded entrepreneurs, it was going to come down to attracting people who are independent, not codependent. so that people weren't dependent upon me. They were able to be independent. My assistant, Henry Klauke, is a top-tier apprentice for me. He receives direction from me, but he's completely independent. And that's what I was seeking, was an assistant who could run my business like he could run his own and be with me long enough to learn those life skills so that he can go out one day and do it on his own. That's what a millionaire apprentice is. I've developed several over a 26-year period. So number 3 is the events that create the doubt, right there. The events that create the doubt. Well, this would be society, parents, school, college, mainstream media, intimate relationships that you've had, failed business ventures, failures along the way, multitude of situations, but most importantly, the trauma that you hold on to that is repressed, and then the experiences that are recreated over and over to fulfill the feelings that continue to showcase that I am not good enough. That is the lower self. The higher self is lovable, capable, a child of God, accesses the Christ within, lets go of feelings of abandonment, rejection, lives in higher consciousness. Now that term was introduced to me in the 70s. My first books that access consciousness, and for those of you around in the 70s, Scott Lucas would remember this. Carlos Castaneda would be his books, Journey to Axelton and The Teachings of Don Juan. And so that I was accessing that content in the 70s with my other drug addict friends and alcoholic homies. And we were reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I had read Jack Kerouac on the road. I'd read a lot of the Beat Generation. I grew up in reading that content. And so that was my first real introduction to consciousness. Then I started to read Florence Scovel Shinn. I was introduced to Ken Keyes, who wrote the book, The Handbook to Higher Consciousness. In 2016, I bought my first David Hawkins book, Power versus Force. That was a quantum leap because I started to understand the content I was reading on consciousness was one aspect of it, but Hawkins' content allowed me to understand the context. And it was the same with 12-step programs. I didn't really understand the 12-step programs for about 10 years. I would go to the meetings and I would participate, but I wasn't really emotionally available to really understand steps 4, 8, and 9. And steps 8 and 9 were amends, and I was doing the vanilla version of amends, but until I really dug deep into step 4, which is moral inventory, and then steps 8 and 9, where I really began to create the amend and started to understand what forgiveness really meant. Now, forgiveness is a very undeveloped topic. If you go out and actually Google forgiveness, you will not find the number of books. If you Google leadership, it'll just go like this. You'll find like hundreds of books on leadership, thousands. But if you Google forgiveness, you won't find that many books written on it because it's a very underdeveloped topic. Forgiveness allows you to let go of other people, situations, and events, and especially yourself. As you forgive yourself, you are actually scaling the map of consciousness. And because typically or conditionally, a lot of us have experienced events that have created shame. I'm a recovering drug addict, alcoholic, drug dealer, thief, pathological liar, serial cheater. I stole money from employers. I stole wine from employers. I stole champagne from employers. I mean, I did a lot of character defect moments, and I avoided really doing steps 8 and 9 for a number of years. But once I started to understand the power of forgiveness, which is really the power of letting go, and as you move into that situation, and then you spend less time on your failures, and you spend more time on the present experiences you're creating, that can lead to new business ventures, attracting different people. As you begin to let go of the events that shape the feelings, failed relationships, and as you start to take a good look at cause and effect, and you start to practice forgiveness, then you can be at peace. So that becomes the one with. When you can be at peace, when you're in peace, then you're not trying to access pleasure. The lower self chronically wants pleasure, instant gratification. The lower self wants to please people. The lower self absolutely wants to have an instant shot of adrenaline. It's like heroin and speed, a speedball, an instant shot of vodka, pornography, instant gratification through an immediate purchase, going out in public, being noticed, somebody recognize me, looking at all the likes and the comments. Did I get 50 likes? Did I get 10 comments? I mean, that's self-confidence. Self-esteem is loving yourself in absolute power without any outside influence. Esteem stands alone. Esteem has no dependency. And that's what, when you're in that, you're in trust, because you trust God. You're not dependent upon anyone. When you're in self-esteem, there are not bad days. There are going to be challenging moments, but in self-esteem, your bounce back ability is very fast because you've changed the reflex of fight or flight. So you can take the two terms content and then context, and they become one, and that's when you understand. Understanding, knowing is exactly what trust is. Maureen, good to see you this afternoon. Maureen was my client 8 years ago. Good to see you, Maureen. Always an honor to have you on Facebook Live. Long time no connect. Feel free to reach out to me. Scott Fellaini, always good to see you. Aretha Johnson has been following me for a number of years. Honored to see all of you here this afternoon. Now this is an area that I'm going to be covering for the next several years. I know Scott and his wife are going to come to Millionaire Blueprint. So I'm going to explain these 3 points right here. Separation. So separation means you are beginning to create the separation between the feelings and the events that shape them so that you can unequivocally be in higher consciousness and trust. Because once you're in trust, you're closer and closer to truth. Because once you're in truth, now you know the whole playing field. So you want to be able to create the separation. Now, if you're not creating the separation, then what you're doing right here is you're participating. And so when someone draws you into drama and you are defending yourself and you're explaining yourself and you're justifying yourself, or if you're losing your composure and you're angry, or you tell yourself that the prospect ghosted me or gaslighting me, you're participating in your own rejection. In these moments, it's important that you learn to move from the participation, which is the separation, and you move into observation. Now that means you're able to observe the situation for what it is without participating in it. That is called power. That means you're in your power, which means you're accessing higher consciousness. That's when you're in trust. You trust what's going on because you're in a place called know. And when you're in KNOW, you understand because you're aware. And when you're aware, you're actually accessing the truth because you trust yourself. And once you've crossed the bridge in today's world, for those of you who are deep down the rabbit hole of conspiracy, reality, religion, the Bible, God, as you start to understand and access this content, then you see what's going on behind the veil, and you don't have to go read some other truther's content, although it can assist you to have a deeper understanding. But once you're in the know, you know. Like once you know it, you cannot see it again. Once you understand up is down, down is up, once you understand this term 33, once you see this 3, you'll see 3s everywhere. You'll see 33 everywhere. You'll see this sign everywhere, and you'll see this sign everywhere. You'll see up is down, down is up. And you have such a deeper understanding of what's going on in the world that you're able to observe it without participating in it. What you're witnessing is called the matrix. You are witnessing people be absolutely seduced by what is happening in the last 4 years. When you're not the participant, you're the observer, you're in your power. If you participate in this, then you're going to attract the same participants in this same matrix. So all the blue pill people are going to be in there going, oh my God, this is crazy. What are we going to do? Oh, this next situation is going to happen. And you can hear them talk like this. But when you're not participating in it, you'll find other like-minded, high-conscious success seekers, like-minded, high-conscious wellness seekers, like-minded, high-conscious people who are much more holistic, who operate in functional medicine, who are homeopathic, who are looking for what you have. And so that means that you begin in trust to attract people who believe what you believe. But if you keep saying, oh, there's nobody out there like me, well, then you're in the participation of it. Because there are millions of people like you who are looking for what you have, and it will be your responsibility to attract your reality, quality, like-minded success seekers who believe what you believe. My name is Jeffery Combs, president and founder of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. If you're a former client and you would like to re-engage with me, and one of my former clients that I coached 18 years ago just re-engaged with me, put me on a Zoom call this Saturday. He had 75 people on it. It was amazing. If you would like to re-engage with me about my coaching services, send me a Facebook message, and I would be honored to speak to you about my coaching for you in 2023 and 2024. Thank you for all the love, support for my wife. She is 4 weeks into her explant surgery. She is amazing. She misses exercise so much. She can't wait to begin exercising again, but she's walking, wearing clothes. She's living the good life. She's doing her best to be her best one day at a time. Thank all of you for being here this afternoon. Deep love, appreciation, and gratitude. Have a great afternoon.